Okay, well, welcome to The Grill, a monthly Dota 2 talk show run by Desoladies featuring women in the Dota 2 community that contribute in various ways. So let's start off. I'm Leafy Peachy, I'm the host for this episode. I have experience, I'm the community manager for Desoladies, and we have two other guests. First of all, Coronaria. Please introduce yourself.
Hi. I guess I go by Sushi around the community. But online I'm known as the TP Score mod. I moderate our Dota 2. Guess it's the only thing I'm known for.
All right. What about you, Super Frenic?
Well, I am Super Frenic. I am the content manager for Desoladies. I am a substitute streamer and mod for the Lotro stream team, which is the official channel for the Lord of the Rings Online. I have also modded subreddits, and I mod a bunch of other stuff on Twitch, including a few partner channels like Big Blake Martinez, the Packers player who plays Dota.
Awesome. So let's start with just getting to know kind of where y'all both started. So how did y'all get into community management, or what was your first experience as a community manager or moderator? We'll start with Coronaria.
So I guess I got involved. So Hellspawn, I guess he's the head mod of our Dota 2 right now. He wrote something in one of the event threads asking for volunteers to help create such threads. And so he rounded up like 5 or 6 of us, and we worked on this for like 6 months to a year. And I think it was around the Shanghai Major. I guess I was just the most active member of that. So they sort of promoted me from helping with those threads to just moderating.
Yeah, and there were probably a whole lot of threads during the Shanghai Major. I'm sure it was very active.
Yeah. So yeah, the mods at the time were super busy with all that stuff, and I guess I was the person who sort of stepped up to help make sure all the. So by the event threads, I mean all the threads that the Hand of Midas account posts.
Yes.
So there's like a team of people who does those.
Okay.
So yeah, now I'm sort of the head of that, but there's still a bunch of people helping me with that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Very interesting. So how about you, Super Fennec? How'd you get started, and what was your first community manager, moderator experience?
Well, I had another answer when we were talking earlier, but now that I think about it, the first time I really got into any kind of community management was probably in high school, when they singled me out for like this whole leadership program, and I just liked it because I got to miss school for like 4 days. And then part of the thing of being in the leadership program was that you had to start a project for the school. And we did like a whole thing for the upperclassmen being friends with like the lowerclassmen, and that was probably the first community that I really moderated, was this sort of half-ass school project that I did really because I just didn't want to go to class. And then since then, people have just sort of been putting me in charge of things, which is very strange, not only online, but also when I moved into an artist collective in New Orleans. I was there for 2 days, and then some of the people started going around introducing me like, this is super, and she's going to save the art house. It's like, oh, okay, I guess that's me now. I didn't save the art house, spoiler alert, but I tried really hard. And yeah, I always try really hard to help out the communities that I care about and I'm in.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's start with sharing some experiences from being moderators or managers of different communities. So do you have, what would you think is your best experience as a moderator or manager, or something that really stuck with you, or something memorable? We'll start with Super Funny this time.
Oh, me?
Oh, sorry, you're taking a drink.
Sorry.
Wet your whistle.
I mean, I still can go if you want me to go.
Yeah, go ahead. Might as well.
All right, so I would say that one of the most memorable experiences was modding Blake's stream, Packer Nation 50, just because he got thousands of followers and he got partner, I think, within 10 days or something. So the whole thing just completely blew up. And like for one specific moment or like one specific night, it might have been the night after we got a host from Moonduck. So, it was just like maybe 100 people chilling, and then all of a sudden, 10,000 viewers. It was like, oh my goodness. So, I know obviously, like on Twitch, a host, you don't have all the 10,000 immediately come into your chat, but we sustained above 3,000 for a few hours, and a good amount of them did actually come over into the chat. So that was a little frantic and scary, but it was also just sort of like, I think you made it, like, right?
Yeah.
10,000 viewers, like, that's legit.
Yeah.
And, as since I'm the mod, my whole thing is to not be in the game with him and just, be in the chat and make sure everyone's behaving themselves.
Yeah. Just to touch on that, I had a similar experience. I'm mod Effie stream, and one night I was like the only mod on, and I was just like, it was like getting ready for bed, just chilling, watching Mira play some good old Dota, and some channel, I don't know what channel it was, I don't think she knew who it was either, like hosted her, and they had like 6,000 Spanish speaking people, and so the entire chat was just flooded with all this language I don't understand, but they were spamming like the same stuff, so I like go to Google Translate, and of course it's like a bunch of horrible stuff, like, sexist things, and I was like, oh, that's great, and like a mean host, great, but yeah, similar experience. We made it through, and I had to like ping people on Discord, be like, come help me mod this channel, guys, it's like flooded with 6,000 people, I don't understand anything they're saying, but yeah, anyways, let's go to Sushi, or Coronoria. Do you have any memorable experiences or something that you're particularly proud of that you had to do with modding our Dota 2?
I guess the most memorable experience would probably be like TI or Boston. And so for both of those events, because they were in America, we had a few mods attending. And so we thought it would be a good idea to have like a meetup or like a bar crawl. It was just really cool going from like an online community to like a people community. Like you see the people who are actually posting on these subreddit forums actually in person. And also just meeting the other moderators. We like talk quite frequently with each other on like a daily basis. So putting like a face to like a voice was quite nice.
Yeah, it is really nice to meet. I love meeting people online. It's so much fun. Is there going to be another bar crawl for this year's TI? Can you spill the beans on that?
So we're definitely doing like a smaller bar crawl or a meetup on one of the weekdays. And I think on the Friday evening, a bigger org is doing a party. I'm not sure if they publicly announced it yet.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be like more like established.
But there will be a Reddit meetup for TI for sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said you were at the Boston Major. We didn't get to meet, I don't think. But I went to the bar crawl actually, just as like a shoot
Did you
myself
have fun?
But I was the one that fell up the stairs and like wiped out in front of everyone.
Oh no.
Yeah, I like the first bar. I was so excited. I was like, can't wait to get up to the bar, and I like tripped and wiped out, and like the entire room of people just looked at me. And I was like, great first impression. Okay, Anyways, but were you there?
I was there. I guess whenever we organize these things, we never know how many people are gonna show up.
Yeah.
We're always a little scared that like no one will show up. But I guess we always have the opposite problem where like too many people show up and the lines are too long. Like at TI last year, I think like people were waiting like half an hour at the bar for drinks, which was crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was a pretty big crowd at Boston too. Like as the night progressed. Because we came to the first bar crawl, and then we had to go eat some dinner, and then we went to the last stop, and it was packed.
Yeah, we actually had to cut one of the bars because like they had a capacity issue. So we,
yeah.
Yeah, we originally had like 4 bars that we were gonna go to, but the third one like it could only fit like 20 or 30 people.
Oh.
So at the first bar, like we saw how many people were there. Like, okay, this is not gonna work. So we just completely cut that one.
Yeah. Well. So successful so far, and I can't wait to this time I'll be sure to come and look for you and not fall on the floor at TI.
Don't make promises you can't keep though.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like I wasn't even drinking yet, so you know what happens after I do. Anyways, so let's kind of move on to another question. So on the flip side, are there any memorably difficult situations that you ever experienced in the same kind of moderating or management, or just something that was particularly hard for you to face, and we'll start with Super for this one.
Oh, really? I went first last time.
I'm doing 2-2-2-2.
um, So one thing that comes to mind, like really quickly, so you can know this is a really strange one. So I was modding a stream that I don't mod anymore. I think the streamer largely quit, and a lot of people just stopped watching him. Anyway, not really important. But there was one guy who was super annoying, and I can't remember his name, so we'll just call him like Mr. Noob right now, because it was kind of like that, but I can't remember exactly what it was. Anyway, he was super annoying, so he ended up getting timed out and banned, and just like gone on his first account, but he didn't stop and he just kept coming back. So like I said, if it were Mr. Noob, it would be like Mr. Noob's parrot, Mr. Noob's wife, like the ghost of Mr. Noob. And he just kept coming back with all of these accounts. It's like, after a while, I don't think we banned him anymore. We were just really impressed how devoted he was to like this whole universe of Mr. Noob, where the people kept coming back again and again and again. Not like he was saying anything like particularly hurtful or abusive, or like he wasn't doxing. He was just being really fucking annoying, and we couldn't
Like
stop
people
him.
in Twitch chat are from time to time.
Exactly. So I think after a certain point, you can't make a whole community, you can't make a whole chat, or you can't make a whole stream about one person, unless it's a streamer. So eventually we just had to ignore him, and we stopped banning all the accounts, we stopped timing them out, and we just sort of like stopped looking at him. And then the issue didn't really solve itself because he kept posting, and if anyone new came in, they would also be like, why is like the ghost of Mr. Noob here, like yelling constantly? So there really wasn't like a pure solution, but I just will always be so amazed that somebody not only was so annoying in Twitch chat, but also had all of these accounts set up. It must have been like 50 of them that we went through over like the course of modding that guy's stream. And like the amount of time you have to prepare to be banned, it was very strange to me.
That's
Something
hilarious.
similar like this actually happened. There was this guy who messages us like every few months. And so whenever we ban someone, we write like a note sort of explaining why we banned this person, so that if they ever reach out to us and another moderator sees the mod mail, they know like what the reason was. So this guy messages us asking really nicely to be unbanned, and the mod note just says, "Do not ever unban, even if he's nice." So this was like I think maybe a year or two ago, but like every few months he just messages us asking to be unbanned again from all of the old accounts.
Oh my god.
It's pretty funny. But I guess back to your original question about the hardest thing that I've had to do. I think this was like maybe 1 month into when I was modded, so like I was pretty like inexperienced, or like didn't know how to handle a lot of situations. But one of the users, who's like he's not like famous per se, but like he's like well known if you're on the sub a lot, because he comments a lot. But he posted like something that basically said that he was going to commit suicide. And so like at first like people, so like half the comments were like joking, or like, and some people were being like super mean, like, oh, if you're going to commit suicide you should just do it. Other people were trying to be helpful. And so this was like in the middle of the night, it was like 2 or 3 a.m. So like a bunch of the other mods weren't around, and I don't know, I guess like that was definitely something like I didn't really know how to handle that.
Yeah.
What ended up happening was like we locked the thread. So we didn't want to remove it because in the comments there were some like really supportive messages from people who like had talked to him in the past, and there were people who like messaged like resources that he could use to like sort of seek help. Because so like he wasn't in America or like Canada or any like country where any of us were like could help. So it was like really a situation where like like even if we wanted to help, we were sort of limited in what we could. So yeah, I guess that was the most real situation where like it was sort of hard to handle.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be really overwhelming to deal with, especially if you're like not used, like so new to that role. Like
Yeah.
just dealing with something like time sensitive to an extent, like that needs attention right away, and like that is so delicate.
Yeah.
That sounds so hard.
Right. That's it. It ended up being okay. So I
No,
guess.
go ahead.
Yeah, that was the conclusion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he doesn't post that much on the subreddit anymore, so I'm not sure how he is doing now, but
Yeah.
uh, I know that was a tough time for him. But
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
hopefully the nice comments that people left, maybe helped him get some assistance and, you know,
Right. It is
there's only
hard
so much
though.
you can do online. I mean,
yeah,
so, and I guess as like as a moderator, you also like you can do your best, but like you said, your hands are kind of tied to an extent, so you don't want to like hold yourself responsible if something does happen, because you can do your
Because you're
best.
not. You're
Yeah.
really not responsible
right.
for it. But it's so hard. Like, you can definitely do your best. And even if your best succeeds, you won't necessarily know about it unless people come back and, like, hey, I had a great time in your community. Like, if people are just done, you don't know why they leave. Even if they could be the biggest poster, the biggest chatter, the biggest whatever, they could
Mhm.
just be gone and there's nothing you can do about it. So you just have to make sure, like, you're always doing your best in your own community, and hopefully everyone else can take care of themselves, like, in other places.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
For sure.
I don't have like a history of like mental health, so like I really like didn't really know how to handle stuff
Yeah.
like that. I guess so. It was
Yeah, I
pretty
mean,
nerve
even for
wracking for
people
me.
that are experienced with like dealing with, mental
Hmm.
Right.
health, it can be very because it's different for everyone. So you
Mm-hmm.
kind of just have to
Yeah,
play it by ear and try to handle it in a positive way and healthy way. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that must
Yeah, I
definitely be
mean
hard.
that my name is schizophrenic because I am schizophrenic, and I can tell you that, like, having a history, like a very storied history of mental health, it doesn't help with community management really, because every time you're just kind of like, oh no, like something bad is happening.
Yeah.
So you can't really be prepared for it and you can't really be ready for it. But like I said, that's kind of a function of the internet's community, is that there's only so much you can do. All you can do is type things to somebody or maybe do a video to them. But then after that, it's completely out of your hands.
Yeah. Um, well, that covered a few of my questions actually. But let's talk a bit more about like as a person. So like what do you think like versus like staying anonymous, like completely anonymous as a person, not sharing your any personal information, just username and icon, versus maybe sharing some more of your identity, like pictures or like your Twitter might be a little bit more personal. Like, how do you guys feel like would be pros and cons with those, or have you experienced anything uncomfortable due to like someone finding anything out about your personal information or anything along those lines? Do you have any kind of comments on that, or why you choose to stay anonymous or vice versa? Start with
uh,
Sushi.
so I personally like prefer to stay a little bit on the DL about like what like personal information and identity. But I think it's like a personal choice. Like there are other moderators who choose to be much more vocal than I am. I guess there's pros and cons about that as well. Um, I guess for me personally, I guess just my personality, I don't really like being in the spotlight as much. I rather like the community ran itself and the spotlight be on the community. And if people don't know that exists, I feel like that's when I'm doing the best job. Um, but I guess like some pros and cons of being more or less anonymous is I don't know if you guys remember, but like maybe a year or two ago, there was like a huge subreddit uproar over like the deletion of like the mafia threads. Um,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
yeah, so after that, a lot of the backlash actually went to Leafeater. Um, it was pretty unfair towards him, actually. I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that was because he was like the most visible mod. He like sort of interacted with people the most, and he was like the most famous because of his guides. And so like when we made a decision that people disagreed with, people just like automatically started just witch hunting him,
Yeah.
even though like that decision was made like it was made as a group, and also out of all of us, he was probably the most against removing mafia threats. So it was like he was definitely like in that situation. Like he definitely got the short end of the stick, I feel.
Yeah.
Hmm.
People just kind of swarmed him because they knew, oh, he's the one that we have the easiest access to and we know how to find him.
Yeah, yeah, and people were probably not happy about it. Like his guys probably ruined like some guys' pubs, and like they're still probably salty about that, and so like they found a chance to like have a reason to be mad at him. So
Yeah.
it's just stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I actually had a very similar issue when I was the only active mod on a 100,000 subscriber subreddit, because at those numbers you can never make everyone happy. Like statistically, you just can't. Even if you get 99% of people happy, there are still a lot of very unhappy people who will tell you how unhappy they are repeatedly through PM and mod mail. So that was one of the reasons I ended up leaving the community that I was moderating. But I still saved the screenshots of this one guy who would send mod mail like every day, just calling me like a tyrant and like a dictator. It's like I don't do anything without everyone else on the mod team at least being like, oh, okay, I guess you can do that. Like I really, I was just doing things that made the community better for 95% of the people, but still 95% is not 100, and the other percent will let you know a lot.
Yes, the vocal minority is very, very vocal.
Yeah. So, question about that when it comes to subreddits. You guys obviously have had the more background view of the subreddit. So, is it true that there's like when it comes to like our Dota 2, like there's a vocal minority but a silent majority that's like quite active but they just don't say anything?
Yes.
Like
So
even
there
when
was
it
actually
comes to people that don't have accounts, I mean, do you even have any kind of info on that?
so we do. I don't have like the hard statistics with me, but
Yeah.
I know like in like the survey we did, like a majority of people, like a very like small percent of people actually post regularly. I think a lot of people are just lurking, reading, or just like posting like once in a while if there's like a post that they feel like particularly passionate about. And also another thing you can see is like our subscriber numbers and our daily traffic numbers don't really match up. Like we have a lot more people who visit the sites who aren't subscribed, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So people that might like just have it bookmarked but don't like ever go on
Yeah,
Reddit for anything else probably.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, because like our Dota 2 is pretty much like the place to get any Dota news like regularly, or like find the hottest drama, or patch update analysis, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Right. And from my perspective, from the other community I used to moderate, which was, I can't really say without outing myself about who I used to be, but it was R writing. It was the biggest writing related subreddit. Um, so there's definitely a big difference between what people actually like and like what people post about. So you can see like from the upvotes that there will be an announcement that can get like 93% upvoted, but all the comments, there are like 7 negative comments on it, like very negative comments. But many of the people just don't want to get into an internet argument, so they don't. And when we would put surveys out, like, do you like this promotional change we made about, well, this change we made about self-promotion? Do you like this other thing we made? Do you want this? People would overwhelmingly vote for the ideas that the mods just put out to limit posting and limit spam on the subreddit. But then you would just have individual people just like going off. And the problem with moderating a writing community is that they write a lot. They should be writing their own shit. They should not be writing to on Reddit.
That's a good point. Yeah.
They should not be like breaking the character limit to tell you like what's wrong with your subreddit. But that's what happens. They get very, very involved. But yeah, like Sushi said, as much negativity as you can get from what looks like maybe a dozen, 2 dozen commenters on the post, if you do surveys or you look at the statistics, there is a huge majority that either likes it or just doesn't care and is fine with how everything's going, and they're just like not motivated enough to write a huge rant about why you're a dictator.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That kind of falls into like my next question that I had for you guys was with both not only Reddit but also Twitch and pretty much any other platform, you can make multiple accounts. So it can make it really difficult to moderate if you have someone that's obviously causing trouble and they get kicked or banned or whatever, and they keep making more accounts. So we've kind of talked a little bit about that. But what do you think, in your experience, is the best way to deal with that, or to like come at that kind of an issue, or how do you deal with it now And we can start with Super.
So I think I can talk a little bit about Reddit. With Reddit, I think that if you're moderating and you have the team or you have the ability to just remove bad posts, negative posts, abusive posts, or comments as they come up, then you can do that. Maybe just like beef up your settings so people need to have like had an account for longer than however much time. Same on Twitch. Like if you're really, really getting slammed with trolls or spam or negativity, you can set it so that people have to be following or have to be there for a certain amount of time. So that definitely helps, but it's always just sort of like a potential problem that you know that someone could be like the ghost of Mr. Noob and just keep coming back on all these accounts. So it definitely makes moderating harder. On Twitch specifically, on streams, you'll get a lot of regulars besides the mods who definitely know how things go and how things should go. So even regulars can jump in and just be like, don't listen to him, like he's always causing problems, or just trying to get the stream back on track by switching the focus like back to the streamer and being like, oh, are you going to, be support next, or are you doing like this battle pass quest, or just doing things that bring the focus back to why everyone is actually there. So and sometimes it's more of just an individual mod effort. It is a whole like collective effort of the community. And I think that regular viewers have more power than they think they do, especially with shutting down like the anonymous trolls or taking attention away from people who are really only there to get attention and to disrupt what you're doing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with getting help from the community with a lot of these issues. Like for us, so we get alerts whenever like a post or a comment gets a certain number of reports. And so whenever we see like a pattern of posts from like the same user but in alternate accounts, we'll usually just like ban all of them. If it becomes a big problem, we'll like message the admins, and they have like other tools like IP bans and just bigger hammers to solve issues like this. But
Yeah.
I guess like stuff that's not available to us. Something else we do is if there's an account that has like very, very negative comments karma, their posts will actually just be spam filtered. So they're just like talking to themselves.
Like shadow
that,
bans?
Yeah, and it's like a subreddit version of shadow ban. And we found that works pretty well because if they don't know that they're banned, they're less likely to make new accounts, and it might take them a while to realize that no one is interacting with their comments. Sometimes we actually get mod mail from people who've been like, I guess, like spam filtered for 2 years, and they just didn't notice in these 2 years that no one was seeing their comments. It's actually amazing. Like, I sort of feel bad, but I guess it's like one of the tools we use to deal with issues like this.
I mean, the system is working. Like,
Yeah.
noticed for 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So do you have that a lot? Do you run into that kind of thing a lot? Like having, people with multiple accounts, like trying to go over the punishments given to them?
There always seems to be at least one guy who's doing it at all times. It's like, it's sort of annoying. It's like, I guess a good analogy is it's sort of like mosquitoes that's just like constantly just like coming and annoying you. But like issues like that, like they're very like, it doesn't take much thought to handle it because you just either ban them or you take some other action. Like they're very black and white. So they're annoying, but it's not like a huge issue that we have.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I imagine like Reddit in particular, because it's so easy to just like make a new account, make throwaway accounts, that you would have that kind of stuff happen a lot.
Yeah.
So let's kind of shift into maybe giving more information to anyone that might be interested in becoming some kind of a community moderator or manager. So I want to ask, how much time would you estimate that you spend like per day on like moderating duties? I know this wasn't in like what we had talked about, but that popped up in my head and I was like, that, because moderating takes a lot of time, honestly, at least for me personally, in Desoladies, and it's not even a huge server, but on Discord, like, I mean, I have to I have like a regular checklist of things to do every day. You know, I keep up with all the chats and everything like that to make sure everything's, you know, along with our code of conduct. And if I have to step in and take any kind of action that requires me PMing people, and you know, that and it could end up taking a few hours of just me thinking about options of how to handle things. So when it comes to like Reddit or Twitch, how much time do you think you spend like just on daily duties, and then like at the minimum of daily duties and at the maximum of like during some kind of, you know, situation happening? What would you say is the time frame of how much energy and time you put into it?
So on daily duties, so I guess I'm lucky with that my full-time job is like pretty chill. Like, I have like a desk job. I can sort of go on Reddit whenever, and my boss isn't like, he doesn't care if I sort of get distracted once in a while and just do silly things.
Yeah.
So like I guess on a daily basis, I'll just go on maybe like once every 1 to 2 hours, and just reply to mod mail. I guess it's something we strive for. If someone mod mails us, we want to like respond in a timely manner, especially because most of them are just for approving posts, and the time that you approve the post might actually impact whether it gets traction or not. So we think it's important that like someone's post isn't suppressed because of some like spam filter issue or something that could be handled because like we weren't there or something. And so on a daily basis, it's just like every once in a while, just checking the subreddit, checking the moderation queue, checking, replying to messages. I guess whenever like there's huge drama or there's like a new patch, it's a lot more time. So what happens whenever something big happens is we have to turn up the spam filter so that every post is removed. And we go through the queue and we're actually manually approving posts that should show up instead of like the other way around, where we're deleting posts. And when that happens, like maybe for the next hour or two, I have to be like constantly refreshing the mod queue to like see which posts to keep, which posts are actually contributing to the conversation, like which posts would be better as comments versus posts and stuff like that. And I guess that gets a little bit annoying. Like whenever like new patches come up, like I also want to be reading the patch notes. I don't want to be like refreshing the mod queue and like deleting the 500th posts about the new patch or something.
Yeah.
So I guess that's like a little bit more time intensive. But there's like 5 or 6 of us, so we sort of rotate, and it makes a like
you kind of split
like,
the duties amongst each other.
Yeah, like I'll be like, oh, I have to go AFK for next few hours. Is someone else here to be monitoring the queue or something?
So do you have someone basically on ready to like do things like 24/7 basically on our Dota 2?
I think theoretically we should, but there's definitely like gaps where
there's sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes like I'll wake up and I'll look at like the subreddit, and on the front page will be like 5 posts of the same meme, or like one person. It always starts with one person who like makes this post that's like slightly funny, and then like another person will repost it but with like 1 or 2 words replaced, and next thing you know, there's like 10 posts of the same thing, and yeah. And like if there's no one around to catch that, like the front page is flooded, and like none of the other content can get through. And that's like something we really have to like. That's the thing we strive for, right? That we want to make sure that good content actually has an opportunity to get people to see it.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Super? When it comes to like how much time that you would say you spend with moderation, or historically in your previous moderation roles? Your mic's muted, by the way.
You don't need to hear my answer. You don't need this pro insight right now. So I think with Twitch, you can basically put as much time into being a moderator as you want, which is also kind of a bad thing because there will always be something else to do. So it's really hard when I go online and I see that like 7 people I mod for are all active. And honestly, sometimes I just close Twitch and like back away slowly and like go play a game by myself and like don't look at it. Because it can get super overwhelming. So I would say that I try to mod only for people who I actively watch. So that way it doesn't feel like a burden or like a responsibility. Like I have to go because I'm a mod. And you know, there should be a whole mod team on Twitch. for whatever stream you have, even if it's a small one, because when you rely on a person to be your only moderator, then you are making kind of like a burden for them. And it can be heavy, so don't do that. Make sure that you have enough mods. So I feel that for all the streams that I moderate, I really try to be there if there's a big event for them, which means that sometimes I can be online for a long time, because the Lord of the Rings Online recently had its 10th anniversary as a game, which is ridiculous. And I'm a mod for that. So I was in the Lotro stream for maybe like 8 hours of that stream. And all of the other streamers who weren't currently streaming on the channel were also in Discord talking about, like, who are we going to ban? Who are we going to get rid of? Oh, that guy just PM me. Don't unban him. So events can be kind of hard as a moderator, and especially like for Desoladies too. I can be there for like half of a 24-hour stream or like a 36-hour stream or whatever we put through. So you just have to know when to set your own limits and when to say, like, I just don't feel like dealing with people today. I don't feel like putting on a smile and being a mod today. Because with Twitch specifically, if you are modded in enough streams, there will always be something you can be doing. So you just have to set your own limits and say, no, I'm not moderating today. I'm just going to hang out today. Otherwise, you could be doing it 24/7 and you're not getting paid for it. The only thing you're getting is probably someone whispering you and calling you a dictator again. So
yeah, that's definitely something that, like, I think a lot of people don't realize about, like, being a moderator for any kind of online presence, because whether it's Twitch or, you know, Reddit, like, it's basically you're kind of on call all the time. If you are the only moderator, or if you are one of the only moderators, unless you have like a really like set up group of people handling like segments of the day or something, because people are online 24/7 because obviously time zones, so shit can hit the fan at any time, and you could be sleeping or right about to go to bed, and then something erupts somewhere, and you're like, oh shit, well, I'm gonna be up for 2 hours trying to clean this mess up. But I think that's something that, like, a lot of people don't realize is that you're basically on call, and that can be really draining if you're the only person that deals with that kind of stuff. But you know, it comes with the territory, and it is really time consuming, like whether it's just having to check slang daily or that kind of thing. So if you were to give someone advice for someone who wanted to get into managing community, or to like get their foot into the door of getting into managing a community, what would you have to say to them? Like maybe of what they should expect, or what kind of qualifications do you think makes a good moderator or manager? We could start with Sushi.
So I guess for our Dota 2, so I guess what we do in our Dota 2 that might be different from the other subs is that we never have like official applications for new moderators. And how we get moderators is really just the existing moderators will, like, we're always sort of keeping an eye out on people that we think might be responsible. So I guess the way to sort of like get noticed is just being like super proactive in the community, whether it's like creating helpful threads or like helping with the events crew, which is like what I did. I think some of the current moderators, they were flare mods at first, so they volunteered to make sure that the posts are flared properly for the people who are using the filters, so they can like filter by esports or not esports. So I guess I just like being proactive and keeping an eye out for opportunities like that. I think if you have like an awareness that this is something you want to be involved with, you can always find opportunities like that. Especially like for our Dota 2, like there's really only like 5 or 6 of us, so there's definitely things that we miss. And if you're always there to sort of help us out and stuff like that, we'll notice, you know.
Yeah, I think that's very good like advice. Is just like it takes a proactive person to like step up and like handle stuff, so and you get noticed when you do that. So what about you, Super, in regards to that question?
I would say that if you want to be a community manager, the best thing you can do is just lurk more. That you can't manage it or moderate it without understanding like what the community is. because there are so many differences, like the size of the community or the general like demographics of the community or the type of community. Because if you're moderating for a stream that's like MMO players who are largely like over 30, the kind of rules and the kind of actions you have to take are very different if you're modding a Dota stream where the people who are watching are like mostly teenagers. So you can't just come in and think you know how to handle the community. You have to watch first, and you have to listen and then see what you can do that would be positive or helpful or new, especially new. Because I've had more than a few situations where I've been in charge of something, and then someone comes in with an idea that we've already tried and failed, and just like is so adamant that they know what's right for it and they can totally be in charge and like they'll fix everything. And they don't, because if you just showed up like 2 days ago, you're not going to really know what we need. So I think that if you want to be involved in a community, the first step is just being a genuine part of the community rather than looking for like the sword by your name on Twitch or some kind of status symbol, that you're actually invested in contributing to it.
Yeah, that's very good advice. I 100% agree with that. Because you really need to know the community and like what kind of people exist in the community before you can like put rules on the community or manage the community at all. So when it comes to new community managers or moderators, do you see any common mistakes or maybe things that you look back on and you were like, oh, classic mistake, new
Rookie mistake.
Yeah, rookie mistake. Is there anything like in general that might be unexpected or like I said, like a common mistake that's made by new moderators? And we can start with Super this time.
I would say the biggest mistake is like coming in and feeling like you have to earn your sword on Twitch. Because for the most part, I feel like if you have been given a sword and you've been made a moderator, it's because your behavior has been generally good and you have been a positive force for the community. So you just need to like keep being yourself and like keep being cool. You don't need to come in suddenly like if you've been a normal member of the community, as soon as you turn into a mod, you don't need to become like such a stickler for the rules. You don't need to start timing out for every infraction. You don't need to start changing things right away. So basically, you just sort of be yourself, but if you see a problem, you take care of it, rather than suddenly going on the lookout for problems constantly and being like a super, super active mod. You should still just be yourself and be an active chatter or a regular viewer or a typical participant. And then when you need to, you will step in, but you don't create the situations in order to take care of them and like prove that you're a mod.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Sushi?
I guess this is like really Reddit specific. I think something I noticed is like moderators that tend to like take their rules too literally or take the rules too seriously. I think it's like sort of like a lazy thing to do, where like you're making decisions based on rules and not your your own good judgment. And I think that's like a really dangerous path to go under, because the thing that with Reddit is that if you're enforcing your rule like super strictly, then your users are also gonna like enforce the rules super like strictly, and you really don't want to get into arguments with with people on the internet over like the legality of like some rule that you probably wrote up in like 10 minutes, and like because like none of us are like lawyers, we aren't like thinking about the technical languages and like every specific situation, right? So like if you enforce the rules too strictly, I think it might backfire basically.
Yeah, that's true. So when it comes to, like, for example, our Dota 2 does embrace, like, memes and trolls to an extent as kind of, like, part of the community of at least the silent, or the
active minority?
Thank you. The active minority. I'm used to saying the silent majority. It's like, what's the opposite of that?
This is why I get put in charge of things.
There you go. Yes. So when it comes to that, do you think, or how do you deal with like people who take it too far, or like, do you find it common where people might take that as like an okay, where like everything's cool, and they might push it into like a dangerous territory of pushing like just like human decency, that kind of thing, and like how do you deal with that? And I know this is a little bit specific to our Dota 2, but Twitch chat is also very like memey, and a lot of people like you like go along with like spamming, copy pastas and things like that. But like, how do you kind of like manage the level of like what's appropriate and like what's over the line? Like, how do you set standards for that and then like enforce that in a way that people can understand? We'll start with Sushi.
Oh, I guess it's a lot of it is like on a case by case. Like every situation is sort of different. And it's particularly difficult for like to have a general rule. Because for us, like Dota 2 sort of like there are like these periods of like tons of activity, tons of events, tons of like patch notes, like tournaments coming up, and these lulls where everyone is just memeing about like ho ho ha ha, or like everyone's waiting for Ice Frog to release the next patch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And during those periods, our standards for like memes and like just like fluff is different. I think whenever there's sort of lulls in news and stuff like that, we tend to be a little bit more relaxed. We let a lot more shit posts get through. I think that's just due to like a lack of content. Or like when there's nothing, like of course low quality content is just gonna rise to the top.
Yeah.
I guess to your question about like when a meme like goes too far, I think we hope like one way one thing we do to deal with this is just like discuss these issues like amongst all of us. I guess for smaller issues, usually it's just like one mod making a decision like the stud is not okay or the stud is okay. But for like issues like when you're like joking about a player, like when is it too far? Like when is it like bullying versus when is it like just sort of
poking fun?
Yeah, exactly. Like one thing we do is we might like see how this player's reacting, whether they're like I guess like I don't know. I guess it's very hard to articulate because it's like it's so different depending on the situation.
Yeah.
But I guess just having like a lot of us and sort of talking over our like what everyone thinks and why we think the way we're thinking.
Yeah.
I guess that helps.
In extension of that, when you do decide something is too far, and then of course you have probably people who are like, well, this was okay, so why isn't this okay? Like kind of come and like, maybe the people who pushed it too far. Like, what is your response to people like that? Like, do you like if they're coming and they don't understand the concept of like what's over the line, like do you just say, well, deal with it, this is our decision, or do you try your best to try to like explain to them like why the reasoning behind your decision?
I think we'll try to explain it to them, but most people who don't understand the first time, like they won't understand even if you do try to explain it to them. So like whenever like someone mod mails us like with a concern over like a post being removed or something like that, we definitely like take the time to try to explain to them our reasoning. But I think at the end of the day, you just have to accept that there's some decisions that people are just not going to agree with.
Yeah, can't make everyone happy. What about you, Super?
Well, I think that, memes and trolls, I don't really go into, like, super big streams, and I'm just not really interested in very, like, memey or, like, competitions about who can be the edgiest. So it's just not what I do. But another behavior that just, like, a generally unwanted behavior would be negativity. We also talked about this in the Desoladies Discord, and it's been a problem in a few Discords I've been in where people just get into the habit that they come in and they bitch about their day. And you have to remind people this is not a bitching about your life place. This is a community for, my stream or for Desoladies or for whatever it's really a community for. So I think that in terms of unwanted behavior, just sort of negativity can be really, really toxic because everyone has something to complain about constantly. But the reason that we go online, that we join communities, that we play games, is to take our mind off of it. So one solution that I've seen work in a few places, I'm sort of like hijacking your comments as a Discord mod, is just making a separate channel for it. So if people really need to complain about something in their life, totally valid, but it shouldn't be in the main chat, and it shouldn't be the main focus of your stream. Because the main focus of pretty much all of the stuff that we're doing right here is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a huge downer. I know that personally I've been a huge downer in my own Discord lately, but I kept it in a private chat. I didn't put it out for everyone to have to deal with. So I see that one of the unwanted behaviors on Twitch in particular is just people coming in, dumping their life stories, being hugely negative, and it puts the streamers in a really awkward position because you want to be sympathetic, but at the same time, you don't want to spend 20 minutes talking someone through whatever issue they're having today when you know damn well they're going to have another issue the next day. So people have asked me, I'm like kind of going off topic right now. People have asked me a few times how to handle it, and what I always recommend is just saying, I'm sorry you're struggling with this right now. That must really suck. Hopefully you can watch my stream and take your mind off of it. Right now I'm going to be doing Battle Cup in 20 minutes. So you start by saying, you acknowledge that something in their life is wrong. You show them some sympathy. You remind them it's not the place for it, and then you just bring it back to the stream. Then if they come back and it's like, oh, blah, 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 you go, yeah, that really sucks, but, this is a Dota stream. So if you really need help, you should seek outside help. But right now, I'm going to go play Battle Cup. And then if they keep pressing it, I would just ban them, because then they're not part of your community. They're trying to take your community, and they're poisoning your community. So I would say that in my experience as a Twitch mod and as a general mod, I don't do the meme thing really, but negativity is a very big problem I see, mostly because it's so hard to shut it down without also looking like a huge asshole to whoever's struggling.
Yeah, I think that also falls in the same category as backseat gaming too, with Twitch specifically. People that just come in and they're like, think they're better than you or whoever the streamer is, and maybe they are, but they're still just unwarranted offering information, or you should have built this, or you should have built that. How do you deal with people like that? Do you, if they keep persisting, I mean, after a certain point, do you just start with hey, please don't backseat game, or how do you handle those kind of people?
So I think for the most part, saying, hey, don't backseat, or no backseating, and saying it nicely with an emote at first will usually take care of it. And then if not,
no,
you just time them out. Brew cup. But if they keep going, then you don't have a choice, because backseat gaming is a pretty hard and fast rule. I also mod a ton of Twitch streams, so some of them aren't Dota, and in a story-based game, maybe you do need help, but the streamer has to make it very clear, and it might even help to have a bot command, hints from streamer on, hints from streamer off, and then people know whether you want them to actually tell you what's going on in the game or whether you want to solve it for yourself. So I think that usually just saying no backseat gaming and then timing them out is fine, because it's a pretty clear line. If you were you should have got a mech, you should have got a glimmer, yes, that is very clearly backseat gaming. There was one other point I wanted to make, but I kind of can't remember what it was.
It happens. We can move on if you want to think about it, or if it comes back to you.
Right. I think we should just move on, because I honestly have no idea what I was going to say. It was a great point, and I was lost.
Maybe it'll come back to you. So when it comes to, so we're specifically talking a lot about Reddit, and we're specifically talking a lot about Twitch. So specifically with those two, very different, I mean, a lot of the same kind of people drift in between these two mediums, but they're very different ways of interacting. What do you think is unique to, say, your specific communities when considering managing and moderating to those specifically? What's something that's very specifically unique to moderating a subreddit, or what's specifically unique to moderating a Twitch chat that people might not be aware of?
I think with subreddit is just the sheer number of people that we have to deal with. I think I've just ceased to be amazed at the type of people that we have to deal with. Yeah, I guess when the community is that big, you just end up having everyone. I guess that's something that's very unique.
Yeah, Reddit is just easily accessible to so many people, and they just can make a million accounts too.
Yeah, and I think it's just having like patience to deal with all of that. I think that would actually be the most difficult part about being a moderator. Just like not feeling burnt out from all like these little issues, constantly dealing with stuff like this. Um, yeah, I guess just that.
Okay, and what about you, Super? What about specific?
Well, I think on Twitch it's kind of interesting because each stream is kind of like its own universe, and it has its own regulars, its own dynamic, its own mods. And if you pay attention to the Dota streamers, you tend to see a lot of the same people watching the same streams. So you kind of always have to be aware of that fact. So you don't want to just be like swinging your mod sword and banning everybody, because if you go into a different Dota stream, that might be the mod, and you're not the mod anymore. So it's very interconnected of the people who sort of pay attention to each other within certain games. In the Lotro community, it's very different because we all kind of network, support each other, promote each other, and like go on each other's streams. It's also way, way smaller, which is why it's easier to do that. But I think just in general on Twitch, the idea that, you know, it's not even like Twitter where you retweet, but you have the power on your own Twitter feed, or like on Facebook, you have the power on your own Facebook page. But in Twitch, every stream has such different dynamics, and they're right next to each other. Like you could have two different 4K people playing Dota on the same server with both like 20 viewers, but the feel and the chats could be completely different. Which is why I say you need to lurk more and see what the stream is actually about before you can feel you can manage it. And then just always be aware that if you go into a different stream, whoever you banned might be the mod. So
Yeah, that's probably something you should definitely remember. Like, remember the usernames of the people you ban. And I'm gonna throw in some 2 cents also as like a Discord, because that's like another medium. Like I said, I manage the Desoladies Discord, which is not huge, but it's something that I've definitely learned that's very specific to like Discord is how quickly things can get out of control. Because even if it's only 8 people talking, people can just not even finish sentences, like, okay, space, you know, like enter, 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 enter. It's like just wall of text just like flying. If someone's in an argument, even if it's just 2 people, it can get very overwhelming. So that's something that like you have to learn how to deal with quickly, and like you kind of have to be like on the ball. And so it just usually comes down to like making, like, you sometimes you just have to put your fist down and be like, everybody shut up for a second, I'm DMing all of you, you know, like, stop it. And then, like, sometimes, you know, and usually
Right.
it does get resolved. But that's something that's, like, a very unique issue that comes with Discord's territory, is just, like, how quickly things can just, like, because it's, like, I mean, it's just, like, instant messaging. So everything's instant. So it's not like it has to be taking the time out to comment and then post it, you know. And Twitch, I guess, is instant as well. But there's a lot different dynamic, I think, with Discord. It's kind of a little bit more conversational, because
More
personal, yeah, because in a Twitch you're in someone's specific chat, like it's not like a group, you know, like Discord's a server of many people. It's not like just super stream or something like that. So it's a very unique and it can be very frustrating issue with Discord specifically. And I'm going to shout out to Discord, and I'm going to plug this. Please make a pop-up when people join servers to agree to the terms and conditions of that server, because that would be great. Like, I agree. Like, have the rules right there where they have to agree before they join it. Anyways, on to
Sorry, I just wanted to say one more thing
go
about
ahead.
what is good for being a mod in basically any situation, is that you need to have like your teacher voice or like your middle name voice, you know? So everything can be really cool, and like, you know, you're having a family vacation, like chilling with your mom, and it's like a great time. But once she says your middle name, like it's done. Like you know that it's real then, or like your teacher voice. So you have to be able to do that, and you have to have like the respect of the people in the community to be able to do that, where you can be memeing and trolling and having fun, but then when something becomes a problem, then it's just like middle name and everyone has to shut down.
Everybody's like, oh shit.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so we're kind of getting to the end, but I have 2 more questions. So one thing is another specific to this medium question. What, like, say for Reddit, is a way that you've learned to get more people like excited or involved to be part of that community? Like, I mean, I guess with our Dota 2 is already very popular. Lots of people visit it, but like coordinating like the sticky threads about like item discussions and hero discussions and things like that. Like you guys have probably tried different ways to get more people talking and interacting with each other. What have you found and learned to be like something that's really specifically positive for Reddit? And then we'll also ask about Twitch too. But we'll start with Sushi.
About Reddit, I guess this is something we're also like constantly trying to figure out. We actually just had a survey, and we sort of took some actions from the results of those surveys. And I guess with the item and hero discussions, we noticed that like people were sort of being conditioned to ignore all of our sticky colors, like that green color. So we're actually trying to add like new colors to our stickies so that people notice them more, or like we actually have we're gonna have a style of sticky where it doesn't look like a sticky, so that it's sort of hidden as like a regular post. Yeah, I guess just stuff like that we think would help the community. And I guess as a moderator, just constantly thinking like, what would people find interesting? Like a few months ago, Knox gave me the beta sites for that Dota.
Mm-hmm.
He like needed people to sort of test it and tell him if there were any bugs. And one of the stickies we had like 2 years ago was sort of like a meta discussion sticky where we just pull up statistics for the past like 2 weeks. Like here are all the heroes that were picked, number of times they were picked, number of times they were banned, the win rates, etc. Mm-hmm. And so I guess it's like noticing opportunities like that. And so like because we were given this beta sites, I created like a sticky for the next few weeks that sort of just gave meta snapshots, and people can sort of discuss like, oh, this hero is cancer right now, and this hero needs a nerf, etc., etc., etc. So I guess just as mods, like all of us are sort of constantly thinking about ways we can improve people's like quality of life, and I guess our philosophy is that if we make it better, then people will just naturally interact with the subreddit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the sticky colors is actually a really good and simple like solution, because it's very true. Like now that I think about it, like sometimes you just like get used to that color there, and but it's still separate from like the rest of the post. So then it's like, yeah. I think it's also because like you kind of get used to like when you do like a Google search or Amazon search, like there's that line of ads, you know what I mean? And so like you kind of separate like this block, and then like everything below it is safe to look at and like click on. Yeah. So I think that'll be really helpful.
Yeah, it's just like small stuff like that. We're just like always looking out for ways to improve. So yeah, if people have feedback, they should let us know and give us your suggestions.
Sweet. All right. What about you, Super? Anything specific to Twitch or other communities?
Well, for Twitch specifically, I feel that you should just make it a welcoming place to talk. And like I said, I think that regular viewers have more power than they think they do in this aspect. Because if you come into a Dota stream and you just see people talking about the patch or like talking about potential builds, but no one's getting like flamed or, you know, otherwise insulted for their ideas, then whoever just showed up that day is going to feel more comfortable to talk about whatever idea they have, like even if it's terrible, even if they have an idea about Jungle Invoker and they end up banned from the stream, and then they PM you saying, can you get me unbanned because it really does work and I'll show you like my Dota buff, and you're like, no. But you want to make it safe for people to talk and safe for people to disagree politely and have productive conversations. Speaking about Dota streams in particular, you know, there are events that the streamer can put on and, you know, do viewer days and coaching and things like that, that can really get people involved. But from a moderation perspective, just in chat, just come in and, you know, make people feel welcome when they show up and just say, hey, how's it going? And the flip side of that, because there has to be a flip side, is that you just need to remember that it's not your stream and it's not your community. So when people come in, you should say hey, and you should say how's it going, but then you shouldn't feel obligated to respond to every single one of their messages for the next 2.5 hours, because you don't want to be a moderator who is so tightly tied to the stream that it's both of you. Because if someone's only there for the streamer and they really don't want to talk to you, the streamer is going to lose out because you're just forcing yourself into these conversations. So sometimes the best way to make people feel welcome is actually not by talking at all and just hanging out and, throwing in a comment or two when it's needed. But you don't need to respond to every single thing with some remark or some response. So that's just part of having a welcoming place where everyone can talk, is that the moderators are in every other line of the chat.
That's actually a really interesting point, like really unique. I hadn't thought about that. Like just because I guess when you are modding like a Twitch chat, like you feel obligated to respond to everyone because like maybe the streamer's playing the game and they can't respond to this person they're asking a question, or you might feel like, oh my god, the chat's dead, I need to revitalize it or something like that. But at the same time, there's probably people who just want to peacefully enjoy the stream, or for whatever reason might not like you, and you might deter them from wanting to talk, or maybe if you're having a conversation with one-on-one person, people might not feel like they want to intervene, by saying something in the chat. So I never thought about that before. That's a really good point.
Right, and particularly like in Dota streams, if someone's asking a question to the streamer, especially if they are higher MMR, like if they're a 5K person, the person's coming into the stream because they want the perspective of a 5K player. They don't want their 2K mod pleb coming in with an answer, because like that's not the point, and you're not really contributing anything. You're not really making them feel welcome, and they're kind of like, why are you answering? Like that's not what I came for. So it's a fine line where, like I said, you just have to chill and be there and chat just like you have always been chatting, and then don't try to think that someone else's stream is yours. Like that's not your stream, that's not your community. You show up a lot and you help out, but you're kind of like the opening band, and people might like you, but people don't come for you. They come for the actual show.
Yeah, very important to remember. So, as our final question, to kind of wrap things up on a positive note, not that all this has been negative, but we did cover some kind of negative stuff. So, in your history as a moderator or community manager, can you describe a certain time that you had a difficult situation or issue, but you were very proud of the way that you or you as a team handled it? And we can start with Sushi.
A difficult moderation issue. I guess for us, I can't think of any like one particular issue. I think it's just, I think the struggle for all of us is to handle all the issues unbiasedly, because like we're all human, and naturally there are users that we don't like or are less thrilled with, and I guess handling those cases as we would any other user, and maintaining that unbiased is, I guess, something I feel like that we do a pretty good job of, just from like talking out with each other and sort of admitting our biases and stuff like that. I think it's something that we've done a pretty good job of, but maybe other people would disagree.
I'm sure there's someone out there. I mean, just like we said, you cannot make everyone happy. Like, it's just literally impossible. But I mean, that's very important, and I think that's something that a lot of people need to recognize as well. Like, as almost, like, if you want to run a good community and have high standards for that community, like, and have like a set standard of that community, like you have to be unbiased, you have to stick to your rules, but you also have to handle stuff case by case. So like, and there's always going to be like that one person or that one situation that really, really grinds you the wrong way, or that really pisses you off, and you just want to like kick them, but they might not have crossed the line. Like that's when you kind of have to like be honest about like what. Like, okay, I fucking hate this person. Can you guys help me with this situation? Because I'm not going to be able to handle this properly.
I think all of us at one point or another have said, like, I hate this guy's guts. You guys make a decision without me. Like, I'm not going to be unbiased in this situation.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just part of the way, that's just the way it is when you're on a team. And it's nice to have a team to do that. Like, if you're the solo mod for something, I can't even imagine, like, how hard that is. But what about for you, Super?
Well, kind of related to what you were just talking about, I did have a situation where I really didn't like that one person on the subreddit who kept messaging and saying I was a dictator. So we ended up banning him permanently, and he was very attached to his account because it had hundreds of thousands, if not like millions of karma. So when I quit, I just said, I am leaving, but you are not allowed to unban this guy even if I leave, because he's going to think that he was right, and he is never, ever going to leave you alone. And everyone was just like, okay, yeah, you're right. We're talking about a difficult moderation issue that I was proud of how I handled. It happened in Blake's stream, so Packer Nation 50. There was one guy who kept bringing up politics, and this was back like more towards the election time, so it was, I guess, like a hot topic, but at the same time it was a Dota stream, it's not a political stream. So I asked him, like, please don't, and then again, please don't bring up politics in here, this is the Dota stream. And he didn't listen, so I timed him out. And what was really great about that is that he whispered me and said, I deserve that timeout because I wasn't listening. And then when I found him again in a different Dota stream later on, he remembered my name, Super Frenic, and he just said, you know, she's a good mod. She timed me out, but I totally deserved it. So I feel like that was a really like high point of my moderation career, when you can ban someone or time someone out and they'll be like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Like, I can own up
when
to
you
it.
convince someone that you're right, it's pretty satisfying for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that wraps it up. I really appreciate both of you coming on today and talking about your experiences. Honestly, like, I learned a lot. Like, I already talked to you guys a bit, and it's been very educational. And I think it gave a lot of insight, I think, to anybody that might be interested or just might not be aware of, like, what kind of shit you have to deal with as a moderator and how much time goes into it as a moderator or manager. So I really appreciate you guys coming on, and of course, check out sushi/coronaria. You don't use your Twitter very much, I don't think, right? Or is there any
Yeah.
other kind of social media that you use actively, or are you just like pretty much on Reddit all the time?
I'm pretty much on Reddit all the time. I
To
I
be
think my
expected.
Twitter, yeah, my Twitter is just like a testing ground for the Reddit Twitter bots. Like all my tweets are just like posts of like old Reddit posts because I use my account as the beta tester for the
Okay.
Reddits.
Well, then maybe or maybe not don't follow Sushi, but you'll see her around on the subreddit, and be sure to give her a shout out. And if you have any feedback, positive feedback, nicely put, for the Dota 2 mods, please don't hesitate. As she said, they're always open to new ideas on how to improve the experience. That is what we are here for as mods, is to make a good experience for everyone. And also Super Frenic, she's got a Twitter, at Super Frenic, as you can see below the names. And myself, Leafy Peachy, and we are gonna call it a night. And don't forget, we are doing an episode once a month of the Grill, and I'm not going to announce next month's subject yet because we haven't confirmed all the guests, but please keep an eye out on our Twitter at Desoladies and all of our other social media. And thank you for watching. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Night.